In 1874, George Cheney received a land grant from the Michigan Central Railroad Company to create a stop along its railway. Thus, the village of Pere Cheney was formed. It had approximately 1,500 people soon thereafter, with a general store, hotel, post office, and sawmills. But just 43 years later, the town of Pere Cheney would sit vacant. Much of the townsfolk dead, and the rest moved away. The story is familiar to anyone who knows the West and the rise and fall of gold rush towns, but Pere Cheney didn't have a gold mine. Instead, what caused the demise, according to many people, is a witch's curse. In 1893, a wave of diphtheria spread through the town, killing almost all of its inhabitants. Diphtheria is an infection of the nose and throat that eventually leads to death by suffocation. Today, there are 0 reported cases in the US after a vaccination was created, but over a century ago, no such thing existed, and it was quite deadly, particularly for children. During all of this, further tragedy struck. Several fires broke out, damaging much of the village. There are reports of this being done by the surrounding towns in an attempt to prevent the disease from reaching them, but this is unconfirmed. Just 4 years later, only 55 people remained when the epidemic returned. Many fled, and by 1901, just 25 souls remained in the village. With just 18 residents by 1917, the land was sold and the last residents moved elsewhere, hoping to find better luck. Today, all that remains of the town is its cemetery. This is the story that's in the history books, but legend tells not one, but 2 different stories. The first is that when George Cheney built a sawmill in town, he did so on land stolen from the Potawatomi tribe of Native Americans in the area. In return, they cursed the land and all those that lived there. The second, infinitely more popular tale is that back in the early years of the town, there was a woman accused of witchcraft and subsequently banished to live in the surrounding wilderness. She had a child out of wedlock who was banished alongside her, and because the weather can be quite brutal in Michigan, the child eventually died from exposure. After this, the woman placed a curse on Pere Cheney, which unleashed the diphtheria and killed the town's children. Eventually, she was caught by the townspeople and hung from a large oak tree in the middle of the cemetery. Afterwards, her body was buried below its trunk. Today, visitors report seeing ghostly figures, lights, children's voices, handprints, and the feeling of being choked when nearby the lynching tree. The story is so popular, in fact, that it's ranked as number 2 in the top 10 witch graves in the Midwest. Because of this, we shouldn't have been surprised to find a large group of others waiting up outside the cemetery when we arrived.
Oh wow, there's a fucking party of them, man. What are they doing?
Quickly we found out that they were here for the same reason as us and were all very chill. They did, however, warn of a large woman riding an ATV around who shouted at them not to go inside the cemetery. Naturally, with all the traffic this place gets, locals can get a bit hostile sometimes. In 2009, a police report states that a male in his 50s opened fire with a shotgun on a group of teens at the cemetery, so we had to be cautious. One of the men had a camera and showed us some pictures he had been taking and caught some more.
There's another one there. Another one there.
I think the one
there.
with Molly was
Right above her head.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a good one.
At the same time, another van pulled up of a family bringing their kids to go see the witch. The place was a zoo.
I put shoes on.
I'll go with you.
I put shoes on.
Say it.
Little dungeons.
Finally, I couldn't wait any longer. I wanted to go inside.
Cropping of stones, man. Infant son.
The cemetery sits on 5 acres of land, and yet there are only 90 known graves, many of which have been vandalized. Something which has been going on for almost as long as it's been abandoned. In the 50s, a teenager who would eventually become the local sheriff dug up a body and drove around with a skull in the back of his car for some time. After hearing the ATV sound like it was coming back, I sprinted to the back of the cemetery to lay low. While waiting to see if Big Bertha would make an appearance, I spotted a trail leading farther back, presumably to where the town was, so I decided to see if there's anything there. Alone back here, I was startled to hear some children's voices. More than likely it was coming from Bertha's shack, no doubt somewhere back that way, or possibly from the group at the cemetery just bouncing off the trees. Not finding any remains of buildings, I headed back and Jimmy met me to continue looking through the cemetery.
What is this? Some weird symbol.
The others finished their beer and said goodbye. Now we were alone, just as nightfall approached.
Yeah.
Okay. We're here in the cemetery. We're gonna see if we can talk to some kids who've died from diphtheria or a witch, depending on how lucky we are. Let's send it. Thinking over here.
Yeah, let's do it by the creepy grave.
You want to be on one side and on the other, or how do you want to?
I'm just gonna film you because I've got footage of the grave so I can intercut.
Is there anybody here who would like to speak with us tonight? Anybody who had died, or maybe somebody who
Stop moving.
did the killing? Can you make your presence known by making some sort of sound? Can you make your presence known by tugging on my pant leg or my shirt? If someone is here with us, can you knock on one of these stones? Okay, I'm going to start asking some yes or no's. If it's a no, don't do anything. If it's a yes, knock on an object close by or make a noise.
We both heard that rustling noise and it was likely an animal, but the next set of noises we did not hear at the time of the recording.
Is there a witch here tonight? Is there anyone with us tonight?
While there's no discernible words, it almost sounds like a child or children. Again, similar noise.
You have one last chance to prove that you're here. All I ask is for a small noise or something. If there is a presence here with us tonight, can you either make a noise verbally, or can you tug on my shirt?
But I've saved the most compelling sound for last. Listen to this growl, most certainly demonic. Okay, that was obviously a joke. It was likely from the only witch here, the lady on the ATV. But whatever the noises we heard before, I don't know. Whether you believe the legend or not, the fact remains that a vast number of people lost their lives here, many of them children. Pere Cheney's devastating story has captured the consciousness of many. The tragedy of our forefathers has now become a source of entertainment for the ensuing generations. They even have a vape juice named after the town. In 2001, a pair of teens decided they wanted to dig the witch up. They were caught before they could, but they had already dug a 4-foot deep hole around the tree. People have stolen headstones. The future sheriff who took the skull. Is it really so hard to believe that maybe one or more residents of the village just might not be at rest here?